Okay. All right. I think we're here.
I'm here.
You are here.
You're here too.
Yes. This is usually Brandon's job, so I'm trying to get everything. Oh no. There's one thing I'm missing. Wait. I got it.
Yeah, right.
No, I do. Give me a second. Brandon's so much better at this than I am. Okay, there we go. All right. I think we're on. I think we're good.
All right.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Unscripted. Thank you for joining us tonight. As you can obviously tell, I am not Brandon Dodd, who usually sits on this side of these microphones. I am Marshall Brown. This is Scotty Roller. So Brandon is sick this evening, and Scotty graciously offered to fill in for us. And so here's Scotty joining us tonight. I'm excited that he's here. Scotty and I have, I guess I was going to say a brief history. It's becoming a long history. You know, we've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
Since you were in high school,
Yeah.
you know, you're in the youth group. So yeah, back a long time ago. And Scotty and Summer are just a great part of our church family. And so I'm excited that he's here tonight. Joyce let us know that she hears it. We're on. We're good. So anybody else just want to tell us, hey, we're here. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be a part of it. If you want to give a shout out to Scotty, hey Scotty, I'm glad you're on there. You know,
But if it's a negative comment, go ahead and leave those to yourself. That won't help the self-esteem much.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so we're going to jump into talking about 2 Peter chapter 1. So if you want to go ahead and go there in your Bibles or your Bible apps, feel free to do that. But as we're kind of waiting for some more people to join in, by the way, Kate Caton said, congrats to Summer.
Oh, well,
I guess
she's the main main worker there.
Yeah.
So whatever that is. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks, Kate.
you can tell everybody, like, y'all are planning on now having a child.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
You made it public, so
Yes.
it's okay to say that on
Yes.
camera now. So yeah. Your father-in-law is on too.
Ooh.
So yeah. All right. Straighten up a little bit.
Hey.
Anyway, here's a question for you guys. All right. I'm sorry. We're doing too much talking to each other. Valentine's Day is coming up. Hey, this is your warning. Probably a little bit more of a warning for you guys, just to let you know, Sunday, you just got a few days to go. Valentine's Day is coming up. So we just kind of want to start out tonight by asking, like, what is, and I'd love for you to comment on this if you would, what is the best Valentine's Day gift that you have either received or given to someone else? And best may that may, like, what's the most creative, what's the most memorable, or best, whichever one it might be. Do you got something?
I do.
Okay, go.
I was really excited when you told me that you were thinking about starting with that question.
Yeah.
Back in college, Summer and I, we went to Oklahoma Christian University there in Oklahoma City, and I didn't have any money, so our big Valentine's plans were going to be, I'll take you to the cafeteria, you can swipe your card, I'll swipe my card, and that's about it. And I'll hold your hand or something. But really, that was the extent of it. But then
There may be dessert involved
yes,
in the cafeteria.
I'll go refill your drink or something. That was my plan. And then the Student Government Association made an announcement that they had received a block of tickets to the local minor league hockey team.
Okay.
And it was like, they're in Oklahoma City. I don't even know the team name. They may not be there anymore. But they had tickets for February 14th. And just first come, first serve. And Summer surprised me with 2 tickets to the hockey game.
Wow.
That night. I had seen some hockey on TV, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But to go and experience it in person, I think there were like 7 fights that night. It was
In the stands or on the ice?
there was a couple in the stands, but most were on the ice.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah?
I had never actually been to a hockey game, hockey match.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
I think it's a game. I think.
We'll call it
Soccer's a
game.
match, right?
Yeah. I think-
Hockey's a
yeah.
game.
Okay.
All right.
And so we went, and it was a really cool experience. No pun intended.
Right.
But I mean, cool and cold.
Yeah.
But that was really awesome.
Okay. Did Summer go with you?
She did.
See, I think that's the even bigger part of the gift.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was fun, but Summer was there.
I think,
Holy cow.
And maybe she'll comment.
Yeah.
I think she actually may have enjoyed it a little bit, or maybe just enjoyed watching me act like a buffoon going, yeah. hit him again. That was probably the more enjoyable part.
Because most of the crowd's like, this guy has no idea what's going on right now.
Not at all. But
Well, that's really good.
That is a
good one.
a Valentine's
That
gift
is a good
that
one.
I
All right.
received
Have you ever
from
given her anything that like equals that kind of?
No.
Okay.
No. I took her to the cafeteria.
Yes. Okay. Did y'all do the cafeteria before you went to the hockey game?
I don't remember
Okay.
now.
All right.
But we had to drive like 20 minutes to get into town.
Yeah. So, romantic guru here, Scotty Roller, sharing his Valentine's Day. So, when Christy and I first started dating, I've told multiple people, I've told our church family, Valentine's Day is not my favorite holiday in the world. And I was much more when I was much younger and much more immature and not necessarily cautious with my words. I was very vocally adamant about how much I didn't like Valentine's Day. So you can imagine, when Christy and I had been dating for about a month, when Valentine's Day rolled around, like I'm not doing anything for her. Like we're barely even together, man. We had, what am I? Anyway, so what I did was I came to my dorm. And she worked in the admissions office on campus. So she worked in an office with a whole bunch of other, mostly women, doing like putting the stamps and the labels on all the mail outs that they were sending to prospective students and stuff like that. Okay. That was her afternoon job. So I got about half a dozen of my buddies, probably most of whom could not carry a tune in a bucket.
Right.
And I don't even remember what the song was, but I sent them over to her office. Like they just came walking in unannounced, walked back in an area that they probably weren't supposed to be in the first place, and found her and just started singing. I don't even know. I really don't remember what the song was, but I gave them something. Maybe it was "You Are My Sunshine."
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was, "My Girl." It was something along those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they went and sang, and I think that was it. I think they just said like "Happy Valentine's Day" from Marshall, and they walked back out. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So there you go. Yeah, that's the hopeless romantic that I am. Anybody else? Feel free. Nobody's come forward yet to say what their Valentine's thing has
that
been.
means that
So
we're the
I
best
guess
at
it's
Valentine's
us. I guess we kind of set the bar too high, and everybody else is like, nah, I don't know. I want to help out with that. So feel free to comment on that. Either what a great job Summer did for Scotty. Or, if you got a better story than that, or just your own story about, Valentine's Day and a gift that you got, feel free to share that with us. Now, as I said, we've been talking about 2 Peter the last few weeks, and we're going to be there again tonight. So 2 Peter chapter 1, and we talked about how Peter, begins in this letter by saying we already have everything we need for the life that God wants us to have. He's already given it to us through Jesus. And then he goes on to say, now, because we have what we need, we have the opportunity to have this divine nature, this presence of God in our lives that is reflective of what's going on in His kingdom in heaven, and we get to experience that now. Okay, so then right after that, beginning in verse 5, I believe it is, he starts going through. Okay, since we know that, since we know we can experience this divine nature because God's given us what we need for this life, then here's what we need to do next. And he says, here's the things you need to start adding to your life. So the first one that we talked about last week was faith. And he says, you got it open there. If you want to read just read verse, if you don't mind, verses 3 through, 5.
Yeah. His divine power has given us everything required for life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. By these He has given us very great and precious promises, so that through them you may share in the divine nature, escaping the corruption that is in the world because of evil desires. For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with goodness with knowledge. Okay.
And then he goes on through the rest of the list. So we talked about faith last week. We talked about what that means and why that was such a big deal for Peter to say, like, of the foundational elements, like, let me interrupt myself. Brandon and I were talking about how what Peter's talking about here is not just like, okay, I'm going to stack one of these things on top of another, or a checklist. Like, I got this. Okay, check. Now I got this. Check. That it's like ingredients that you're mixing together, that you're adding to this whole process of becoming more like Jesus. Yeah. So the foundational piece of that, the very first thing that you want, kind of the stock of that, is faith. If you don't have that, these other things, they're great, it's
But
good stuff.
It's not going to work out.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't have the power, with it, and it's not going to be nearly as transformational. It's not going to create this life change if you don't have that faith. And so we talked about that last week. Okay. And then we started, well, I guess then we add on to that what he says here. So add to your faith goodness.
Goodness.
Okay. So goodness. So, all right. Add goodness. What does that mean?
Well, I tried looking it up in like in the dictionary, and how do you define goodness? It's really kind of ridiculous. It's to be good. Yeah. So, I mean, all right. Thanks. See you all later.
All right. So go be good. Thank you guys. Yeah. So, I mean, think about how hard that is to define though. It's almost like you can give examples of goodness better than you can actually define goodness. Mm-hmm. Right. So let's do that for a second. I mean, I want you to, and I'll get an answer from you, Scotty, but I want us to think about like what picture comes to your mind? What person comes to your mind when you think of somebody that's good? Like, who's a good person? Like, I can think of like, Shirley Temple. And yet I know that people who are probably 30-ish and younger don't even know who that is. They know it's a drink that you can order in a bar that has no alcohol in it whatsoever, but that's about it. But Shirley Temple would be this innocent, sweet little actress girl back in the 30s and 40s, I guess. Did you even know that? Do you even know who Shirley Temple is? You're aware of a person named Shirley Temple. Buddy the Elf.
Okay, yes.
Okay, for the movie.
I'm on board now.
He's good.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Even though he calls himself a
cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Oh my goodness, the language. Yeah. Okay, so that would be somebody that came to my mind as somebody that's good. I don't know, who do you think of this that's like good?
Oh well, I mean, I have some examples from like throughout my life. Someone that comes to mind. Oh well, Cade, if you're watching still. I mean,
he's still watching. He even said that Ashton put a rose on his desk when they were in Oakdale Middle School before they were even dating.
Stop it!
Cade. Wow.
Ashton.
Okay, Ashton is good.
She is.
I don't know about Kate. No, go ahead.
Cade is a guy that I now look at as he's a good person, but also growing up in the youth group, his parents, his dad especially.
Yeah.
Leif, I mean, just when you see him and you just or spend any time around him, it's like, wow, that's a good guy.
He's just good.
He's good.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. All right. Anybody else? Feel free to comment, share with us. Like who do you think of like being a good person? That's like, I was thinking like family members. I mean, I could obviously talk about like my dad. He's a good man. Other people call him a good man. So, I mean, it's got to be true, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Other people come up to me and go, hey, your dad's a good man. Maybe there's, coaches that I've had in my life. I mean, different people that you've interacted with that when you look at that person or think about that person, you're trying to describe that person to somebody else. You're just like, that's a really good person. But is that what Peter's talking about here? That's the other piece of this. When we're talking about goodness and being good, and Peter's saying you need to add goodness. Like, again, how do we define that?
Yeah, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
How?
Are you just talking about somebody like, okay, smile a lot, or, pat somebody on the back and tell them to have a good day, or like, or are we going beyond that? Because that seems kind of trivial. Yeah. That seems kind of superficial.
Real shallow kind of.
Yeah. Like I can even fake that if I wanted to. Like, yes, I'm a good person for sure. So what is he talking about? So, Scotty and Jordan Manchester make fun of me a lot. For a variety of reasons. Really let me qualify that statement a little bit. They make fun of me a lot for when I use Greek and Hebrew terms. Yes. And anytime that I kind of preface, hey, what I'm about to say comes from the Greek or comes from the Hebrew. There was a while there, one of the reasons that I don't keep my cell phone in my pocket when I'm preaching is they would send me a text that would say either Greek or Hebrew. And, I would come back and find my phone later with these messages from them every time I use a Greek or a Hebrew word.
And he never responded. He just took it and whatever.
I recognize, yes, I use Greek. So, but we go back, this part of 2 Peter was originally written in ancient Greek language. And if we go back to the Greek word that we translate as goodness, it's not just, it goes beyond just kind of having a positive attitude or even a good character. This particular word, and it's used only 4 or 5 times in the whole New Testament. It means to have kind of a moral excellence, like your values and your morals are like way up, like a high standard of doing the right thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When I think of goodness and then you say excellence, I mean, there's, in my mind, a difference between being good and being excellent. So this helps out a little bit. All right.
Yeah. Because we're going beyond average.
Yes.
We're going beyond good. It's like the
moral
excellent thing.
excellence.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, and that's what Peter is talking about here. So thinking about, along the lines of like, I'm setting a really high standard for myself of how I'm going to act, of how I'm going to treat people, of how I'm going to, I guess, talk to people, the choices I make, the things I'm going to do. I feel like it kind of is similar to like righteousness and trying to do the right thing, but it's really more about just your mindset and your character. Like I have this goal, I have this standard of who it is that I'm trying to be, kind of this gold standard of character. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like, that's what I'm trying to aspire to.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, that just automatically took me to, what is it? Hebrews, the heroes of faith chapter.
Yeah.
Just of all these Old Testament heroes that are someone to try to attain your life toward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to be like that guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one of the common characteristics that all those people has, they had moral failures as well, like, and failures in their faith too. So I think that's part of what Peter says, like, this is what you need to strive for. You need to try to add this concept of goodness. So, and I think it goes beyond just like setting that for myself. It's in comparison to the rest of the world. So you hear that a lot from Jesus. So like, trying to have his disciples, like, this is how the world operates, but this is how I want you to be. And this is how even like religious people operate, but this is what I want for you to be. It's just, it's just a different approach. It's a different mindset. It's a different perspective,
Okay.
I guess, than the rest of the world. And I think that's what Peter's kind of getting at here. So a couple examples, Romans chapter 12 and verse 2, Paul says, don't conform any longer to the pattern of this world. So here's the way the world acts. Here's the way the world thinks. And here's what I'm going to do instead.
Okay.
And that would be good. That would be the good thing to do instead of this not so good thing.
Regular, just be good. Okay.
Yeah.
Gooder.
Be
Okay,
yes, be a little better. Paul says the same thing in Ephesians 4, chapter 4, verses 17 through 19. He talks about non-Christians and says you don't need to live like them anymore. They live in darkness. They've lost sensitivity, that it doesn't even bother them to do ungodly things anymore. And he's like, that doesn't need to be you. So even though he doesn't use the word goodness there, I feel like that's kind of the mentality. Like, here's who everybody else is. Here's what other people in your workplaces, maybe even your own family, are looking like. I want something better for you.
All right. Again, to that excellence.
Yeah.
There's the good, but let's shoot for better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or there's the no good whatsoever.
Yes.
Let's get out of that. Let's shoot for higher. And here's, as we say that, I feel like the risk of having that kind of distinction, if I view myself as trying to be a really good, this morally excellent person, the risk is there for me to kind of look down on you and like, okay, we're both striving for goodness, but this is my goodness. I mean, you're good.
You're good, but not quite
but
as
you're
good
not,
as mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you think that might be a risk?
Yeah, definitely. And whenever I said earlier that Leif Caton was a guy that I find as good, I kind of hesitated to say his name specifically.
Yeah.
Because, we've all made mistakes. Not Leif Caton, though. He wouldn't make mistakes.
Never.
But I think if you were to ask him, he'd say, I've made mistakes along the way, made choices that I wasn't proud of. And he wouldn't want you to say, this is me. This is how good I am. Try to get to my level. Try to get up to where I am. He wouldn't want that. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at is everyone's. It shouldn't be like a measuring stick.
Right. It shouldn't be, from my perspective at least. And I think for what you're talking about, I think it's a really good example though. If there is somebody who is already accomplishing what it is that I feel like, man, this is a level of goodness. And I do feel like I'm not there yet. There's nothing wrong with me looking at that person and going, I want to try to emulate that person in my life. But if I'm at a certain level and then I'm kind of looking back at you and going, this guy, I mean, he's trying, I guess, but and I think that's the risk. That's what Jesus was critical of with the religious people of his day, who viewed themselves as being really good, really righteous.
Yeah.
And they looked at Jesus and they looked at his disciples and, and like, bless your heart, you're just not making it, And so I want to kind of emphasize that for a minute and just say, we're not talking about a level of excellence where we feel superior to other people. It's just recognizing there's a level of immorality in this world. There's an evil presence in this world. There's a complacent presence in this world where people just don't care about trying to be better, about trying to do the right thing, about trying to be who God calls us to be. And I think that's what Peter's getting at here when he says, you've got faith. If you believe that the story of Jesus is true, if you believe that God has given you everything you need for life, if you believe you can actually experience this divine nature, if you got that faith, combine that, mix into that a desire to be better than the rest of this world that Jesus is trying to save you from in the first place.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I like that. Just the analogy of mixing it together, going through all of this here in Second Peter. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And so, Cade makes a comment here and asks a question, when Jesus is talking with the rich young man and that's in Mark chapter 10, it says, why do you call me good? Maybe that's a question, because he calls him good teacher and he's like, hey, only God's good. And in that context, Cade, you're right. There's this there's God's goodness, and then there's the rest of us that are trying to get there. Like, are we ever going to be as good as God? I don't think so.
I think to that point a little bit, it's awesome that Jesus never said, there's God's goodness and then there's mine. Try to get up to my level. Because we're never going to get to there. But even so, he's like, why do you call me good? His humility there in that example of why do you call me good teacher? It just kind of shows, if anyone's going to be close to perfect, that's the guy. That's
going to be,
But he's still like, why do you call me good?
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, good question there, Cade. So, kind of trying to move along here because I talked a lot about goodness. Why would you think? I'll just kind of pose the question to you. Why would you think that Peter is like, okay, like why would this be important to Peter to say this is an element that you need to add in?
Thanks. Yeah, that's a great question.
I'm gonna toss that to you.
Well, and I think part of it is kind of having that a little bit of humility with that within yourself. And instead of saying, I have faith, the rich young ruler, he said, I've followed all the rules, I've done good, but I'm still missing something.
Yeah.
And it was that humility of, what else am I missing? I've done everything that I was supposed to do, but there's something in my life that's missing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that humility, other than the fact that he says, well, then sell all your stuff and follow me. And he's like, well, but I have a lot of cool stuff.
What else am I missing?
Yeah. But the humility there of, I've done everything I've been told. I've followed all the rules, but still there's something in my life that's missing. And so I maybe it's just kind of that, keeping that humility in your life of, continually strive to be better.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. And I think again, we've been talking about, Brandon and I've been talking about how like some of these things for Peter aren't just, hey, this is a really, preacher type thing to say. This is stuff that Peter has had to work on in his own life. So we talked about faith last week, and as much faith as Peter had at this point in his life when he's writing this, there were times when Peter like completely walked away from his faith altogether, and so like he's not preaching at us and going, okay, you need to do this and do this. Peter's going, okay, faith has got to be there, and I know what a struggle that is, but make sure that you've got that. I think the same thing with goodness. I think that's something that Peter probably struggled with, because you think in Luke chapter 5, when Peter first has this kind of one of his first encounters with Jesus, and Jesus wants to go out fishing on his boat, and they go like, he hadn't caught any fish all night, but he goes back out there, and Jesus is like, throw the nets in, and he does, and so many fish that the boat almost sinks, and they have to get another boat to come over and haul it back in. When they get back to shore, the first response that Peter said, Peter, he doesn't say, man, Jesus, thanks for all the fish. It's nothing like that. The first thing he says, he just drops in front of Jesus, says, Jesus, you need to get away from me. Why? Do you remember? Because I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm not worthy.
Yeah, I'm a sinful man.
Yeah.
And there's a recognition there, like you have to be really good, moral excellence to be able to do what you just did, and I'm not. And I think Peter struggled with that throughout his discipleship of sometimes being bold and brash and arrogant, and other times feeling like, man, I shouldn't even be here right now. I'm
not even worthy of, coming within feet of you. And here you are, you just give me all these fish. Just stay away. I don't deserve to be around you.
But then Jesus' response is what? Hey, we're good. You need to come with me. You need to come experience more of this. And I think that's what Peter's kind of getting at here. Maybe I'm pushing too much into it, but I think that's kind of what Peter's getting at here when he says, add goodness to your faith. There's a belief that he had in that moment in Luke chapter 5. Hey, this guy's special, and now not only do I believe that there's something miraculous, there's some power this guy has, but now he's calling me to live a different life than what I lived before.
Yeah.
And that's, I think looking back, 30 something years later, he's going, yeah, man, you start with faith, but you mix goodness into that. You mix it because I believe so strongly in who Jesus is, I want to be different than the rest of the world. I want to live to this higher standard, and not because I'm better than everybody else, because he is, and because he thinks that I can do better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to go try to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think one of the cool things is, as you look at your life, try to be better, try to reach excellence. You're never going to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do good things today and then think, okay, I'm a better person today, but you can always do a little bit better. Tomorrow, let's do gooder again.
Yeah.
And just continually build upon that. And so I think it's just like not an unobtainable goal, but at the same time, an unobtainable goal if you can always improve that.
You want to keep pursuing after it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes me think of people, real quick, we're going to be out of time in just a minute, but think of people that kind of push themselves in a way to, in whatever, I can only think of sports. I can only think of athletes, but can push themselves to maybe a further level than other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know you're not a Tom Brady fan. I'm not a huge Tom Brady fan, but the fact that he is in the shape that he's in and as successful as he is at the age that he is.
Yeah.
But then you start reading, his diet regimen and his training regimen and stuff. Like, he works a whole lot harder.
He does.
Than a lot of other people.
I'll give him that.
At what he does.
He got lucky.
That has nothing to do with has nothing to do with being a fan of him. That's just recognizing there's a standard that he set for himself. It's like, man, I'm going to keep pursuing, trying to get to here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and by living a little different, working probably a lot harder than, I know a lot harder than me, but working harder than everyone else around him, he's continually getting better, and it shows. I mean, he does have a few more rings than I do.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's good at what he does because he puts in that extra effort.
So who, and anybody else, you feel free to comment real quick if you can think of somebody else along those lines. Who can you think of somebody?
Offhand, no. Let's see. Oh, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, obviously.
I know your boys probably are in the LeBron James camp, but they're
wrong. Yes.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, he was one that also continually pushed himself to be better.
Yeah.
And it showed because he's much better than LeBron James.
But I think even if you watch some of the, if you ever watched The Last Dance, that documentary that came out last year, there was still this this pushing to, I'm still not where I want to be. And he's the best player anywhere at the time. And he's like, yeah, I'm still trying to get better, you know? And so I think that's kind of what we're hitting at here at the end is I don't know that we'll ever reach, is there a cap? I don't know if there's a cap. If there's whew, I made it. Oh man, I'm as good as I possibly can be. Thank goodness I ain't got to work on that anymore.
I'm going to hope Tom Brady finds that cap real soon.
But okay, but going back to us with our moral goodness, our moral excellence, is it just about striving for it, or is there an actual level to get to?
Man, I don't know. I like to think that, one day, hey, now I can just take it easy. But at the same time, I don't want to. All right, I've been good enough. Now I can just slough off and.
Because as soon as we start coasting, what happens?
You're gonna tank. It's just gonna go downhill completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't imagine that there's ever a time where you just, all right, I did it.
And I think again, that's why Peter says, man, add this, mix this in, continually be adding to, your faith needs to continue to grow, your journey towards this higher standard of your morals and values and who you're trying to be. That needs to keep growing. You don't ever need to be satisfied and go, done.
Check that one off the list.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah. Cade says, chasing after Jesus seems to adhere to this, that motivation and integrity lead to goodness when chasing Jesus. You have to want this. You have to want this, this greater standard. And I agree, Cade. One of the things that I thought as we're wrapping up here, there were multiple times, not just with Peter, there were multiple times that Jesus and the people that he interacted with, he kind of called people to a higher standard. I mean, he has in John chapter 3, he has a conversation with this guy named Nicodemus, who was a pretty good dude. He's like a religious leader. Yeah. Like people are coming to him to find out how they're supposed to live their lives. And he comes to Jesus and Jesus is like, I mean, you're here. You could be here. Like, and it's not even critical. It's like, man, I know you're searching. Let me point you, a different direction. You mentioned, the rich ruler, in Mark chapter 10 and here's him going, well, I feel like there's something more. I feel like there's something more I could be doing. And Jesus is like, yeah, there is.
Sell your stuff.
Here it is. Yeah. Sell everything and come follow me. And then he's like, no, never mind. I've reached my cap. Let's see who else I have. Zacchaeus, wealthy guy. And Jesus is like, yeah, you got a lot of stuff, but you're a terrible person and nobody likes you. Oof. Okay. So let's try to do better. And he does. Like, he's like, you're right, Jesus, this could be so much better than what it has been. So there's multiple times that Jesus did that. And yet at the same time, there wasn't any judgment involved. There was never a point where Jesus was like, my morality is so much better than yours, and you can never attain what it is I'm calling you to. So, don't even try.
Of all time, the only guy that could do that, he's not doing that.
Yeah.
He's never said, you're nowhere near as good as I am.
Yeah.
But he challenges us to keep pushing to do better.
And to
awesome.
and to even say like I want this for you. I want this. I want something better for you because I see what the rest of the world is like.
Yeah. And
I want you to be better than that. So the last thing I'll share with you, Jesus in his prayer before the night before he died, in John chapter 17, verses 15 and 16, you go read it. I'm just going to paraphrase. Jesus prays to God, and he's talking about his disciples in that prayer, and he says, God, I pray not that you'll like take them out of the world. I want you to leave them in the world, but I don't want them to be of the world. I want them to be different than the rest of the world around them. And I think that prayer applies to us as well. And I think that's what God wants for us. And I think that's what Peter's talking about here. I don't want you to feel superior to the rest of the world or feel like you're better than the rest of the world, but I do want you to live different than the rest of the world. There's something better that God has called us to, and that's what we need to be striving for. And so, if nothing else, we can wrap it up tonight. Just go be good.
Go be good. There it is.
Add goodness. Go be good. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate. I meant to tell you, your mother-in-law said hello from your favorite mother-in-law.
Oh, she is my favorite mother-in-law.
Yeah. So
hey, Pam.
Yeah. But thank you guys. Thank you, Scotty, for coming tonight. Hope Brandon gets to feeling better. I don't know if he's watching tonight, but Brandon, if you're watching, I hope you get to feeling better. And we will be back next Thursday at 6:30 for another episode of Unscripted. Have a good weekend. Stay warm. Stay safe. It's going to get slick again after this weekend. So hang in there. We'll see you next Thursday.